as we jump into sales metrics a little bit, we track a lot of different things because we know if we have a certain amount of activity, we'll be in the position to get the results we want. And the results we want is to help people and also have you as a coach earn the most amount of money possible. So all that being said, one of the main things that we track early on is something called meaningful conversations. Very important to define meaningful conversations because this is something that is what we track constantly. Now, a meaningful conversation is when you have a conversation with someone, an individual conversation or a virtual conversation on the phone, in person, and it has a little bit of meaning, a little bit of significance. It's not a 10-second conversation. It might be a 5-minute conversation or a 10-minute conversation where you go into a little bit more depth and you realize that they are curious about coaching. So we track those things. So if someone's curious about coaching and you have a little bit of an extensive conversation, that's called a meaningful conversation. And we track those. We know that oftentimes we'll give you metrics specifically, but the more meaningful conversations we have, that leads to the next step, which leads to the next step, which leads to new clients. So meaningful conversations is the starting point. So I want you to think about that, start tracking the meaningful conversations you have. And again, you might be having a conversation with someone you consider a referral source partner early on, where you're talking to him, you're talking to her, and you just want them to introduce you to people in their network, but you realize through the conversation that they're actually curious about coaching for themselves. So that would actually be maybe not an initial intention, but would turn into a meaningful conversation. And this might get a little confusing, but you get 2 meaningful conversations for one person. That's how we track it. 2 meaningful conversations for one person. So say you're at a networking event and someone's curious about business and you have a 5-minute conversation that's meaningful, but then you schedule a follow-up kind of an hour-long free coaching session where they come and really experience coaching. That's also considered a meaningful conversation. So you've actually had 2 meaningful conversations with the same person. So that's 2 meaningful conversations. Okay? Go out and have a tremendous amount of fun having meaningful conversations.